The 24th of January. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Apple has released iOS 16.3, and an interesting feature of it is it supports hardware security keys. Um, so that, for those that haven't used them, are small hardware tokens that either plug in or use near-field communications in order to act as a factor in authentication. So idea being, you need username, password perhaps, and then you must also have the hardware key. I've used them, they're very good. They weren't perfect in their earlier iterations, but I think the indications are that the technology has moved on, and they can make an alternative to the sort of 6-digit verification codes, Google Authenticator type things. So good to see that they're being integrated into iOS. Apple requires you to have two keys. Unsurprising, really, because if you lose your security key and you don't have another method of getting onto your device, you're in trouble. You're locked out. So the best known manufacturer of these is YubiKey, and the YubiKeys have been confirmed as working. There are other manufacturers. There are some named in the article, which will link to this. But definitely, I think a step in the right direction, and one to think about if you're using an Apple device or an up-to-date modern Apple device. Facebook has introduced new features for end-to-end encrypted Messenger app. So the Meta platform on Monday announced that it was starting to expand global testing of end-to-end encryption in its Messenger chats by default. This is obviously a good thing for all of us concerned about privacy. So I think good for them for doing it. We'll see. There will be, I'm sure, further pushback from governments that feel like they should be able to see and read and have information on absolutely everything that we do. There we go. Let's see where we go with that. But it's good to see that finally Facebook is doing something other than just selling all your data in the background. Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble for that one. So on the technical side of cybersecurity, there has been an increase in the use of the open source tool Silver C2 as a command and control framework, as an alternative to Cobalt Strike or Metasploit in attacks. So I think we all have our indicators of compromise, looking for communications, Cobalt Strike communications, and certainly if you see Metasploit traffic going around your environment or leaving your environment, then that should flag up. It's easily identifiable. There are other open source command and control packages out there. This particular one I've not used, however it's been developed in Golang. It's a post-exploitation framework. It's developed by the cybersecurity firm Bishop Fox and is aimed at red team professionals for assisting with penetration testing, red team, purple team type engagements. It can deal with things like dynamic code generation, compile time obfuscation, so on and so forth. Stageless payloads. Very sophisticated. It looks like it. It is good. However, I would suggest that you have a look into it, identify any potential indicators of compromise and get those built into your SIEM or your security visibility tooling, because it is an increasingly common alternative to the things that we currently look for. couple of other things going on. Interesting to see that the US no-fly list has unfortunately leaked. It's a list of people that are so dangerous they should never be allowed to fly on an aeroplane. Yet people who are have not been actually convicted, so they are not wanted in the sense of the police can go and arrest them. So it's interesting that this is basically a list of people uh, for whom there are suspicions but no proof, or people that are under surveillance but don't want to, that shouldn't be brought in yet, I suppose. The TSA, US TSA, has been giving this list to every airline. So it's not exactly well protected. It is supposed to be secret, and it certainly ended up in the hands of every major government that's ever asked for it, according to Bruce Schneier. The the yes the news is that it was left exposed on an insecure airline computer from an airline that I've never heard of, Commute Air. So I don't know. That's one of the things. If you've got information that needs to be secret, but equally needs to be distributed widely, those things can be mutually exclusive. If you don't trust the people you're giving it to, then what do you do with something like this? Does it matter? I suppose is the other question. I suppose it's worth having a look and see who's on it. Find yourself on there, you know you're in trouble. Final thing from me is that a new report is shedding light on the potential Trojan horse technologies that are getting a foothold across large swathes of, in this case, it's the UK, based around Chinese made cellular IoTs. So basically, IoT devices that talk back using 5G or Wi Fi or whatever it may be. So on Monday there was an article published by the Washington-based consultancy OODA, as in the OODA loop, OODA, um, saying that this is very under recognized national security threat. The author of the report is Charles Parton, who was for 22 years a diplomat working in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong. He advised the UK Foreign Office and the EU on Chinese affairs, and he has been part of the Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, Special Advisor on China. He points out that 54% of the global market of these devices, which crop up in all sorts of things, your fridge, your car, your doorbells, your cameras, you name it. So 54% of the global market has been cornered by 3 Chinese companies, but from the point of view of connectivity, 75% of the connectivity associated with these IoT devices comes from those 3 companies. Now, like all Chinese firms, they must hand over any data that they're asked to hand over to the Chinese government. So the potential for spying is absolutely enormous. So yes, we've recognised in the UK that Huawei products may not be suitable for use, certainly for use in secure environments. There is a whole load of other stuff as well, and as we've previously discussed, the ability for the Chinese government to collect data is astonishing. If you think of the amount of data they collect about their own people, hoovering up data from people around the world really isn't technically beyond them. I think the concept is gather all the information possible, sort out whether it's interesting later. Concerns about things like tracking politicians, seeing who's associating with who, where people have gone, you name it. There's all sorts of things that could be of interest. More Perhaps, well, actually, I don't know. It may be of interest to the Chinese government if you have a particular penchant for a certain sorts of beer that you keep stocked up in your internet-connected fridge. Who knows what stuff might be useful. But yeah, it's out there. And I think this is something that, whilst the vast majority of us can do absolutely nothing about it, other than consider whether we really need the fridge to be and the kettle to be on the internet. And if not, well, don't go for it. It's a gimmick, would be perhaps a way forward. Government cars in the UK have been found to be being tracked by these sorts of devices, however, so there is a more sinister side to this. And that is all from me today. Thank you for listening, and I shall be back again tomorrow.